But as much as there is showing teams respect, there's a line where you show them too much respect, which is what I felt that Aston Villa did in that first leg. As good as Paris Saint-Germain were, looking forward to Villa Park, they have to be a lot more aggressive. And I think there's a lot of players competing for starting places.
Big day of action in the Premier League today. Nigel, Grella, lots of games happening. 5-2 Manchester City after they went down 2-0. By the way, got to give that a quick mention. But that will be a frustrating result for Arsenal. A 1-1 draw with Brentford. The title race is kind of done anyway, and we can confirm that if Liverpool win their next couple of games and Arsenal lose, then Liverpool seal the deal. They win the title. They are crowned champions in the next couple of weeks, Nigel.
Yeah, we'll be lying to say that the Premier League title race isn't over, because for me it's over. Yeah. Arsenal have one thing to focus on, and that's the Champions League. And the big story today was to see the starting lineup, how they approach the game against Brentford, and it's all looking forward to the second leg of the Bernabéu. You look at today's game, most of the big 5 changes were made. The big heavy hitters who we'd expect to start for them came on late into the game, as most managers would do, to give them some minutes to get them ready for that big game midweek. Second leg at the Bernabéu. You talk about Saka coming on, Moreno, Lewis Skelly, Odegaard, all those players, we expect them to start again, because that is their focus point for the rest of the season. Yeah,
a lot of teams in the Premier League have something to play for. Arsenal's probably not one of those teams anymore. And with the big match coming up, like you say, that's where their focus is for sure. For me, they found success in defensive transition. When the ball turned over, they constantly had numbers. They always defended with 4 or even 5 at times. That's where they had the success against Real Madrid. When they go away now, that's going to be the key for them. Not to bunker in, not to sort of not play, but to continue to go forward, go to their wingers, and then have the good, solid defensive transition. That's where they found their success. There's going to be periods away from home at the Bernabeu where they have to be brave on the ball. That's the thing. It's going to be an electric, intimidating atmosphere, but there's times where you have to rest with the ball and you have to be brave, and a lot of those players haven't experienced that yet. But even though in the result today, they're still looking forward more so to that second leg of the Champions League than Premier League.
OK, so how do we see that second leg going against Real Madrid? 3-0 down they are, but it's Real Madrid. We know that they can come back, Grella. The key is, if, like we just, sort of hit on it, is the key is if they show up and say, we've got 3-0, we have to bunker, we have to protect this lead, then it can get tricky, because Real Madrid will pile on pressure, they'll go for it, they're a wounded animal at the moment, they'll throw everything at it, they have maybe the most talented team in the world, you could make that argument, and then they'll find themselves in trouble. If they go there and say, hey, let's play, as it's 0-0, let's be brave on the ball, like Nigel just said, let's go for it, let's get the ball into Saka, let's get the ball into our game changers, and make sure that if we make any mistakes, we have that solid 3 or 4 in defensive transition. Then I think for me personally, if they play that way, they can beat Real Madrid again, because they have athletic pieces, they have guys that are organized. And Arsenal, don't forget, we've seen a defensive side for them now for the last 2 years where they don't concede a lot of goals and they're good on set pieces, and that'll be the key for them. And I'll just say, to add to that, they cannot concede a goal in the first 20 minutes. That's just basic old school football. We always get told, don't concede in the first 10, 15 minutes. If they can do that at the Bernabeu and not concede in the first 20 minutes, that will take the atmosphere and the belief out of the fan base, and they should be a lot more comfortable. Oh, it'll be a tough game, though, but hopefully a good watch. Talk to me, Nigel, about Aston Villa. A big win for them today against Southampton, who we know have really struggled in the Premier League this season. But that should give them confidence heading into that second leg next week against PSG, another huge game in the Champions League. They can't lose to a side that's been relegated. We saw Aston Villa make some changes there. Onana came in, we saw Maatsen come in. Cash was taken off at half-time and he started again today. Again, they rotated their side, looking forward to the Paris Saint-Germain game. A side that Grella thinks it's over in that tie. He thinks that Paris Saint-Germain are going to walk through it. But what I did saw, for me, which was important, was Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins came on again and scored a fantastic individual goal. Simple ball of him running in behind. And why I highlight that, that's what I felt was something that was missing in the first leg against Paris Saint-Germain. We didn't really stretch them. We were too negative, too deep. The outlet, and people might have criticised Marcus Rashford, but we don't know if that's what Unai Emery asked him to do, to sit so deep. But as much as there is showing teams respect, there's a line where you show them too much respect, which is what I felt that Aston Villa did in that first leg. As good as Paris Saint-Germain were, looking forward to Villa Park, they have to be a lot more aggressive. And I think there's a lot of players competing for starting places. Yeah, I totally agree with that. They, against Southampton, were more direct today. They went and go get the 3 points, obviously competing for European spots in England in the Premier League now.
But when you play PSG, if I'm going to get into a fight with a guy who's a better fighter than me, you better believe that I'm going to use a weapon, I'm going to bite, I'm going to try something different. And I think Aston Villa has to do that. They have to be more direct. They can't play in a game of total football with PSG because PSG are better in that department. So they have to be more direct. Put balls behind them, kick them. Don't let them feel comfortable. Kvaratskhelia, far too comfortable. Doué, far too comfortable on the floor. Dembele doing whatever he wants. So they have to rattle them early, set pieces, balls in the box, balls behind. And, and maybe that's the only way you can get something from that tie. That obviously they're down 3-1 going into it. But a team with a lot of physical power that can upset them, maybe if they play that way.
I think that what Grella makes a great point, because we discussed it as well about Onana starting today. For me, was a bit of an eye raiser as well, where he has to start midweek. He brings a different attribute in that midfield area. He's comfortable on the ball. He's a big physical specimen. He's also a threat for set pieces. So I expect Aston Villa to be a lot more aggressive at Villa Park. I still feel that they're in this tie. 3-1, they've still got a great chance. They've got a great world-class goalkeeper in Martinez. But I think in the attacking sense, they have to show a lot more bite, a lot more desire. Ollie Watkins would have been very, very disappointed not to start that first leg. This second leg, you expect him to start, and it just showed by his goal as well. His celebration of, grabbing the badge and, really showing that he wants to be at the club, the passion and emotion that he showed in that.
OK, so you think Villa still do have a chance. Can they actually beat PSG, though, Nigel?
I played at Villa Park in some great nights and great atmospheres and European nights. You can never rule them out. This is going to be something that loads of generations of Villa fans have been waiting for, and the noise is going to be absolutely electric. I give them a chance still.
Is that a yes, though? You're sitting on the fence, Nigel.
I just said yes, I give them a chance.
OK, and they could go through and beat PSG?
They could beat PSG at Villa Park. I don't rule it out.
Grella, not for you?
I hope there's no gamblers out there. You're not gambling your savings away on this. I don't see it. I see a PSG side that rode Liverpool. I see a PSG side that's grown so much into the season. They're not the same team from the knockout stages. I see a team that is getting better. They've added Kvaratskhelia into that to give them a different look as well. I see a team with too much quality, and it could have been by more. And Aston Villa in the Champions League, they struggle with Club Brugge. They've struggled in the first leg of this one. When they have the football, they look a little bit slow, hesitant, sometimes even awkward, the two center backs when they're in possession. So I see PSG. I'd like to sell the Aston Villa. I love to, because we have one of their obviously their main men from back in the day here. But the reality is that the quality in the Champions League right now at this moment is too much. And the only chance, like I said earlier, is if they go long and direct and make it a terrible game for PSG, where they go, wow, we don't even want to be here anymore, and you got to kick them and put them in a match that's so intense that they've never been part of it.
Energy levels have to be high. It wasn't in the first leg. They have to have those high energy levels now in this second leg at Villa Park.
Well, Villa Park might be a fortress, Nigel. OK, well, we'll see how Arsenal and Aston Villa get on in the Champions League next week.